It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 514. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
As you can tell by the truncated intro, we're down several folks. Basically the entire Seattle contingency, so, this is either going to be a really short show or one of the longest in history, because that's usually how it goes. So I did want to have a brief revisiting of a topic from last week, the whole Path of Exile faction wars thing. It seems as though the Anti Sanctum Alliance has actually had some impact on the economy in the Legacy of Phrecia event. Last I checked, Sanctum books were going for like 60 chaos, which in a normal league they would go sell in bulk at like 10 chaos each.
That is so funny.
So people are like, I hate the fact that they're calling it this, but they are referring to book burning after they get books and deleting them. And I hate that part, but
yeah, I can't say I care for that.
But yeah, like it's been funny that it's actually had a true impact on the economy, and the counterforce, I guess, is led by some of the folks that run with Empyrean Gaming, aka that team that does the crazy farming techniques. And their mission has been to flood the market with as many tier 0 uniques as possible to drop their prices so people can buy them. So it's been this weird back and forth between these two sides. It's been a weird league. I am further progressed than I thought I would be at this point. I have gone into some cluster jewels and some of those jewels that affect radiuses, and like this one combo of Unnatural Instinct and Light of Meaning gives me effectively plus 200% fire damage. So yeah, like this is probably the most explosive version of Righteous Fire that I've ever played. Little chaos explosions all over the screen. But I think I'm kind of winding down because another game came out this week. But Thalen, the Roottrees Are Dead? What?
Yes, they are.
What is this topic?
So there's a game that came out about a month ago, I think, called The Roottrees Are Dead.
Oh, that's literally the name of it.
That's the title of the game. Yes, this isn't some clever like reference to something, or that this is literally the title of the game. So a few years back, a game called Return of the Obra Dinn came out.
Yes,
and it was brilliant.
Amazing.
Okay,
yes.
Like super brilliant game about like you're an insurance adjuster and you're on a ship where everybody on the ship has died, and you have to determine who they are, what their role on the ship was, how they died. It's a big logic puzzle thing. So the Roottrees Are Dead is somewhat similar to Return of the Obra Dinn in that it has the logic puzzle element. But in this case, you are filling out the family tree of a large family using research on the internet in the late 90s. That's the premise. So basically, the inciting incident is there was a plane crash, and the president of the Root Tree Candy Company and his wife and daughters were killed in the plane crash. And this is going to cause, a whole bunch of like legal issues with the family. There's a whole thing there's a trust that was established by the great-grandfather who founded the candy company originally that is like an ironclad trust that pays money to every blood relative. And so your job is to determine the entire family tree, starting with the founder of the candy company down to the present day. And you're doing this by like searching around on the internet, searching for names and places and companies and all sorts, various terms, and tracking down photographs of people and trying to figure out who each person in the photograph is and who's married to who and who their kids are and all this stuff. And it's a pretty neat game. It took there's actually two puzzles. So there's that initial puzzle, and then there's a second puzzle set approximately a year later, dealing with some of the fallout of the things you found out. And the second puzzle is much, much more difficult than the first one. The first one, you have all the names of all the people who are going to be on the tree. You just have to figure out which name goes in with which person. The second puzzle, you have a massive list of first names and a massive list of last names, and not all of them are used. And for every person, you have to, figure out what their name is and plug it in and so forth. There's lots more red herrings, lots more, websites that don't really have anything to do with what's going on. Lots more rabbit holes to fall down. But it's a really neat game. Like I played it. It took about 10 hours all told for both to solve both puzzles.
It sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting, really cleverly done.
Is it the same folks, or is this just a similar vein?
It is
game?
it's a different developer. I think it's just a person named Robin Ward is the developer. It is published by Evil Trout, and it's the only thing they've published. So
that sounds pretty great.
But yeah, it's a neat game, and I'm a little sad that Tam isn't here because I know that Tam had mentioned being interested in it previously when we were talking. So I don't know, maybe he'll have more to say next week regarding it.
I'd appreciate a game like that has a specific goal or two and is achievable in a relatively finite amount of time.
Yes.
Every once in a while, in between all the gigantic, sprawling AAA, always on as a service nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because I sat down and finished the first puzzle I did in one evening, and then the second puzzle like over the course of 2 days. Went through it. Like, it's just a nice puzzle. Finish up in a reasonable chunk of time, like comparable to reading a good-sized book.
I feel like there need to be more games that fill that place. Whereas, I don't know, like it feels like we've been in this cycle of games consuming more and more time, and just getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where like they take forever to come out, and then when they do, it is a make or break moment if they're a success or not. Like,
and when they come out, they might not be fully finished.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Also, like I've been playing a lot of Dwarven Realms lately, and just that is a game that has no end. That is a game that will scale infinitely. As much as you grind, you will gain power, and it can be fun. There's something interesting about that that's a little bit different than some other similar games, but at the same time, sometimes it's just really nice to have something that is finite.
Yes. Yeah. Like this, and in general, I really try to keep an eye out for games like this because that exact thing, like a nice puzzle game that will take a few hours and then I'm done. Like the Return of the Obra Dinn was like that and was great. Chance of Sinar was that sort of game. It took a couple of days worth of playing.
This is also reminding me that I need to get back to Citizen Sleeper 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I need to play that.
Because the first game was kind of that way, where it was like a day and a half long experience for me. and then I was done. I think I played through it again a second time with some different options, but like I felt like I got the entire experience of Citizen Sleeper in my first playthrough, and I just wanted to know more.
Yeah, I mean, I think my initial playthrough was about 6 hours to finish the game, and I haven't gone back and done the DLC. I need to do, or the additional seasons that they did. I don't think it's
Yeah.
actually DLC.
I haven't done the additional stuff for the first game, but I played through it multiple times just because I really loved the world and really liked the way the game worked, and it was enjoyable to go through and kind of pick at some of the things that I had skimmed over in my first playthrough. But even with that, it was still pretty short.
But yeah, like I want more developers to make games like that, or or like Unpacking, which is just a nice, short, pleasant puzzle game. Not every game has to be, tens of hours, hundreds of hours of playtime.
Well, and I think there's lots of these games out there, but they're just not crossing my path because discovery of things is kind of a mess right
It
now
is a
on the
lot more
PC
difficult.
platform, especially on Steam.
Yeah, like every so often, Steam will, recommend something that actually applies, but so much of the time it just seems like this thing is popular in general. Like,
Yeah,
no, I don't want to play the current sports game.
I really wish there was a way to tell it not to ever suggest those. Because, like, for a while, their recommendation engine was pretty good, and, like, I would cycle through it and see what it said. But here lately, it's just every single thing for the reason has because it's popular. And
Like-
it's not like it doesn't have enough purchase history for me to be able to model what I might want. So kind of the big thing that came out this week was Monster Hunter Wilds, which dropped
Yay!
Thursday late, aka really Friday for anyone that wasn't in the PST time zone. I had forgotten how much I needed cute palicos doing nonsense in my life.
Oh,
And
yes.
this game is so much more packed full of palicos. Like, I'm kind of disappointed that there isn't a kitchen that cooks meals for me, that I essentially am mostly cooking them myself.
No, there's no Palico chef. Oh well.
At least not so far. I'm in the third area now, and there is a Palico provisioner that is adorable and wears a hat that looks like one of those tomato pincushions, and it's adorable. But
Yes.
and the Wudwuds are adorable, which are, I don't know if they're prehistoric cats or if they're beavers or if they're otters or what they are, but they're cute.
Yeah, I've only seen pictures of those guys. I think
They've got
I
short,
saw 'em, like-
stubby little tails, but they,
Yeah.
I can't really tell what they're supposed to be.
kind of got otter vibes.
Maybe. They have an interesting usage of the English language.
Oh boy. Speaking of language and palicos, the palicos speaking like normal language is too weird. My palico must be merping and chirping, and that is all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was very confused by that.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, that kind of messes with my head a little bit. And the weird thing is all the other palicos but my palico seem to be doing the normal chirping, trilling, whatever noises. I don't know why mine can talk.
There's a set. I think you can still change it, but there was a setting in the character creator.
I mean, it's probably like Meowth. It just that Palico can talk.
Yeah.
Why not?
I do think somebody said you can change it in your camp though if it's just a little too not
Okay,
right.
I need to see if I can find it, because, like, I greatly prefer the random noises instead of, like, vocabulary. Not that the voice actor that voiced the Palico did a bad job or anything. It's just that that's not right. So I'm having this weird thing with Monster Hunter Wilds where, okay, so basically there's two halves to this. Well, three halves to this franchise. You have the OG Monster Hunter games that have very little direction, if any, in them. And then there's the Worlds games that started with Worlds that have a fully fleshed out quest to them. And then obviously there's the Monster Hunter Stories, which is its own thing, and I can't stand that they call them monsties, and it drives me nuts. But I feel like I need a game that lives halfway between the two, because anytime I am playing one of the mainline Monster Hunter games, I feel like it's a directionless mess and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But when I play the Worlds line of games, I feel like I'm just doing quest after quest after quest, and I kind of want time to roam around and do things, but it keeps sending me back out in quests. And I realize I can stop the questing at any point and just go wandering off into the world. It just, I don't know, like it feels weird to me that like I have polar opposite reactions when I'm playing the two different types of experiences.
I definitely have already just stopped doing the main quest and started wandering around. I only just got out of the first area because, one, because of technical difficulties, but also because I just wanted to go and explore and gather stuff and fight some monsters before I went to the next area. And so I just went wandering around. It was good. It feels very good to move around in this world.
Yeah.
I think even more than last time around when I played Worlds. So I don't know whether I have gotten better at this or whether the control scheme is slightly less unhinged this time around. I feel like I'm slightly more competent at combat, so that's good.
I've had that feeling too, because like really it was only the last two fights. So I'm in the third area now. And before you get to the third area, there is a fight which I would consider like the equivalent of a Nergigante or something like that, like one of the bigger boss monster fights. And like it and the one right before it were really the first two fights that I did that I really had to like watch myself and heal significantly. Like the first four monster fights or so seemed like they were pretty easy to get through. I still really wish that this game gave proper feedback as to the hit points of the monster. And like maybe that's just my MMO player brain rot, but like I'd prefer that I could see its health bar just like I could see my health bar. Cause kind of like most of these fights are like 5-6 minutes, but it feels so much longer than that because I'm not seeing whether or not I'm really like getting close to killing it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like, I get that it's a convention with these games that you don't get that piece of feedback, but I also definitely miss it. I, yeah, I, I know that you get the little skull on the map when it's getting close, but
Yeah, but there's a big difference between getting close or when you're I forget what they called them, guild mistress in the last game, Alma, when she tells you that it's getting close, there's still a lot of fight left to go before.
it feels like about 25% maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But like almost all of the encounters, when I do kill it, it's a surprise to me because there's not been any significant difference in the fight for a while. I don't know, like my favorite part of Monster Hunter games is tagging into random players' SOSs and helping them out. And I did some of that this afternoon, and that still works. I'm very happy that there are guilds now. That's at least something that should, when we do actually meet up and do things, that should make it easier.
Yeah.
It's weird that there's guild chat, but I guess it makes sense. Technically, they're called squads, but
Yeah, I was able to group up with Sita for a little bit last night, and we did like the link thing or whatever, but we still had some issues with the environmental stuff, but we figured that we were just like one quest off from each other, so we figured that might have been interfering, but we could like post and accept each other's quests and stuff like that.
yeah, and I think it's probably going to be one of those situations where you have to have the person that's further progressed join the person that's less progressed,
Yeah.
and just deal with it.
Yeah. And there was one time, like, one of us, I think he was trying to send a quest and, like, got an error or something, too. So, I don't know, maybe it was just kind of a wonky night because it was Friday night and everybody was trying to play.
I've had some random issues with, like, I've not had the crash issues that Grace has had, but I do, like, drop session all the time, and I'll get a little message saying that, like, something about the instance timing out, and then it will recover and put me back into the quest. But I would imagine there's probably some infrastructure growing pains happening.
Yeah, I've been having some serious issues. I think I finally got them sorted, but for a while there, yesterday and this morning, it was maybe a 75% chance if I started a quest, the game would just crash. And I like messed around with some settings. I ended up like I downloaded the new drivers and then I reinstalled them and then I did a clean install of the drivers and it seems to be mostly stable now. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but it was pretty frustrating. So I feel like I'm moving pretty slowly just because I lost so much time because I would try to start a quest 3 or 4 times and just have it keep crashing and then throw up my hands and go do something else with my time for a little bit. So I'm hoping that that is sorted now and that I'll actually be able to make some solid progress going forward because when I'm in and it's working, it's really fun.
Well, and, like, this game is now, like, the 5th highest peak concurrency on Steam. It between when I was talking about it yesterday and today, it's bypassed Lost Ark, with like a 24-hour peak of 1,384,000 players. So, I mean, clearly there's a lot of people hitting these servers. Like, I am kind of curious to see if it can pass the next one, because the next one in the 4th spot is Counter-Strike 2.
Oh.
That would be impressive.
Yeah, so basically, like, Steam charts for concurrency is PUBG, Black Myth Wukong, Pow World, CS2, and then Monster Hunter World, or Monster Hunter Wilds. I keep wanting to say World.
Yeah, that's gonna take a little while to fully wrap around there. It has been kind of fun to just jump into like the random lobbies and just seeing a whole bunch of different hunters milling about with all the. Some of them have some pretty fun names. I enjoy it more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, like I said this in chat, I think it was last night, but I was standing there beside Huntsuna Miku.
That's so good.
I'm on the flip side where I appreciate that it lets me set myself as solo online, which means that I can just do my own thing, but if I want to, I can also still jump into SOS or shoot my own SOS. But otherwise, I'm just on my own, and I am good with that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that that's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, and there's
lets
also
me
a full-
pause, which is
There's
the
also a
other
full
big thing.
offline mode too. So
Well,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but being able to be online but still set a solo, like, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels really good. I can still see the squad. I can talk to people. I'm still online, but I am in my own separate little instance doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that when I am in that mode, I can pause the game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
man.
huge too.
It's so
Yeah,
huge.
I need to switch over to using that because that's the thing that I miss the most from Path of Exile 2 now that I'm back playing PoE 1 is being able to pause the game was huge.
It's such a quality of life thing, and especially for Monster Hunter, where some of these quests and some of the fights can take a few minutes, and things happen, life happens, a cat
Yep.
throws up on the floor, or whatever. like you have to be able to step away sometimes, and it's very nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, I have definitely been using private for like questing and stuff like that. But if I'm just hopping in for a few minutes, I guess I kind of enjoy people watching.
I think when I get to that point where I'm doing just more jumping in and out of non-story stuff, I'll be more inclined to be around other people. But especially like right now, it's brand new. I don't want spoilers. Like I don't want distractions. I just want to be able to kind of enjoy the game as it plays out for a little bit, but also be able to hop in with my friends when I feel like it.
Yeah, that's totally true. Because there are definitely hunters that are standing around like they're in the hub in Final Fantasy 14 showing off their high end armor. So, yeah.
The armor sets are really freaking cool this time.
Yes.
Not that the previous sets were not cool, but like they're really freaking cool this time. And like wildly different, and they really lean into some weird aesthetics.
Yes.
Like I ended up using the layered armor, the armor appearance thing, because like I'm wearing some gear for stats that I do not love the look of right now. And like I made my Palico a set of armor that makes them look like a tiny hippo with cymbals. Which is a look. So instead, we're rocking the samurai outfits right now, both of us. And Thalen, you can name your Velociraptor mount, and I named mine Mongo.
Very nice.
But like the mount really makes a big difference, and to some extent, Monster Hunter Rise had a mount as well, but it didn't feel like it worked as well as this one does, especially once you turn off the autopilot functionality. Once you do that, it kind of just works like an MMO mount, because like it by default it wants to keep going along predetermined paths, which is fine, and that mode is handy because you can be sharpening your weapon and you can be, fiddling with other stuff while you're on the back of a mount, and kind of do so safely without worrying, okay, am I going to get KO'd by the boss while I'm trying to sit over here and sharpen this weapon? So that's handy. The other thing that I haven't quite gotten used to is focus mode. I don't know, like I think I play significantly worse with it on.
I set mine to toggle it on and off, and I feel much more comfortable that way. So I'm not trying to hold it down and do everything else. And I'm starting to get used to having it on that way most of the time.
I set it to toggle, but for whatever reason, when I'm in that mode, I have a harder time dodging out of stuff. And I don't know why. Like, because in reality, like, it's just the reticle is the only difference and where you're facing, but it seems like I am in the way of the monster way more often.
I've been using it pretty extensively. I've been playing bow, and
that makes
it
sense.
is really helpful for that, and has some good benefits. And I'm such a terrible shot that I appreciate that if the monster is wounded, it'll lock onto that and just fire away. It's great.
Yeah, I'm playing Sword and Shield for the first time because I've never really played that before, like seriously in a Monster Hunter game, and I'm enjoying it. Like, I really like the Shield Bash because the Shield Bash kind of gives me some of the stuff that I like when I'm using something like a hammer, where you can like break heads and stuff much easier than you normally would because you're just like bashing it with this heavy shield. But I like the freedom of movement that the sword and shield has. It's like much more nimble than like longsword, which was what I played in the. I didn't play the beta, but I played the short test thing that happened before the beta. I also like that you can mount pretty easily with a sword and shield. I like crawling up on the monster's back and beating the hell out of it. The Palico is way better at distracting the monster this time around than I remember it being last time.
Yeah, that's.
It also seems to be way better with like healing and removing debuffs and all that stuff, because like all I remember from last time is inevitably it would heal me right after I healed myself.
Yes. But the distraction thing is really noticeable, especially since I'm playing, a ranged weapon. It's pretty functional and it's incredibly helpful.
I don't know. I'm sure we will have more to talk about as we progress through the game, but like really just in the very early minutes of playing the game, I think I've maybe got like 7 hours, something like that.
It's been a lot of fun, and I've definitely been enjoying it.
Me too.
Anybody have any other discussion topics? This may end up being the shortest AggroChat ever. I guess to some extent, I have a lot of things to say about Last Epoch.
That's true. I'm happy to talk about that trailer.
So Last Epoch dropped a pretty lengthy, pretty well-produced trailer this week, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in it. I don't know for certain everything that's happening. So we've known up to this point that this patch was going to be mostly end-game focused, and also was going to include a complete ground-up rework of the Sentinel. Because like right now, I think Ash and I have talked about this before, the Sentinel is being held up by, God, I can't think of the name of it, something reversal, which is basically this ability that winds back time but also buffs your damage and causes you to deal like a lot of damage in a short burst. So as a result, everybody uses that, even in builds that don't make sense to use it. So it's a problem, and they decided basically that in order to make it work at all, they needed to completely do a top-down redesign of how Sentinel works, so that they could, add buffs to everything else that was underperforming, to make up for the fact that they're basically really reducing the limit, the ability of that void ability. And the thing that like excites me the most is Forge Guard has kind of been this aimless specialization in Last Epoch, and now they're starting to give it an identity, and one of its traits is the thing that I always want in every game when they can give it to me, is the ability to wield a two-handed weapon and a shield at the same time. Like, that was the thing that made me want to play Warrior in Path of Exile 2, and that was the aspect of the Diablo 3 Crusader that I liked the most, and now Forge Guard is going to have that, and I'm interested to see what kind of functionality that brings. But also, like, the end game looks wild.
Yeah, it looks like they're adding a really significant amount of variety to the end game. I guess we'll see how deep
Well-
it is once we get it, but there's an entire new faction.
Well, and there's basically an atlas of worlds from the sounds of it. That's kind of the level of functionality that it's adding, to where you can kind of pick and choose how you want your monoliths to behave. Like one of the ones that they showed off on the developer thing on Friday was, if you do not like arena monoliths, you can just take a thing that causes arena monoliths to no longer spawn. If you do like arena monoliths, there's another path that you can take that makes them a bit more challenging and end up spawning multiple champions at the same time as a result. So there's a lot of ways to lean into things that you do or don't like. Supposedly there's an entire thing that you can add to your monolith that just summons a bunch of exile mages in a single map.
They can keep that one.
Yeah, I don't want that one. But if you gave me a bunch of eggs...
Yeah, I was going to say, give me all the nemesis, yes, but you can keep the mages. But just the ability to kind of narrow down on what you want is going to be, I think it's going to feel really good. I'm really excited about some of the new crafting options that are coming in. I think they're going to make the crafting system, which is already pretty great and one of my favorite in an ARPG, even better. Just have even more fine control, or not even fine control in terms of, getting rid of RNG, but just being able to really focus in on the things you want, or if you've got an exalted that has just one stat that you don't like, but the other stats are good, you can re-roll the stats and shuffle around, what the tiers of everything are. That seems really useful.
Well, and the other one that looked really cool was if you've got a unique that's got high LP but really crappy rolls, you can consume other copies of that unique to re-roll your unique, to kind of do something equivalent to a divine orb.
Yeah, as I said, it's still random, but it's helping fine-tune things that used to be static and unchanged. So I think that's going to be really fun to play around with.
Well, and I think it's going to do a lot to improve Circle of Fortune, because that's kind of the trade-off right now of Circle of Fortune, is you get access to way more stuff, but you don't usually ever find the perfect item that you would find in a trade economy with exactly the right stats and exactly the right LP level. So any more tools that they can give us to essentially SSF our way to getting the better versions of builds, because I don't know, it feels like in Circle of Fortune there's kind of a ceiling to how good your build can be, and that's based upon the luck that you have of getting items.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I tend not to think about that in the same way, because SSF is sort of my default play mode, and so to me, Circle of Fortune feels amazing because it's taking something that's even more limited in other games and at least saying, hey, we know you're going to be limited, but at least we're going to throw a lot more loot at you. So you have at least more of a chance of finding things that are more appropriate for your build or closer to being those good items. And the crafting is so good that I think that also helps. That it's very easy to get gear that is good enough.
Right.
To at least get started, get going, and then settle in for a grind if you really want to sharpen things to the deadliest edge that you can.
Yeah, that's really the piece that Last Epoch has over other games, is it's really easy to get a build stabilized, and from there it's just a lot of RNG to get it to the perfection state.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few uniques that are build defining and do feel like they take a little while to show up in the RNG sometimes, but such as ARPG life.
Well, there was one thing that they showed off which made it so that champions on a monolith can drop the loot from the boss of that monolith, so that you have way more access to those items that only come from specific bosses.
Yeah, that's huge. Not having to cycle all the way through the meter on a monolith to have a chance at specific pieces. That will be extremely nice. Yeah, there's just a lot of quality of life stuff. I know we've been waiting a really long time for this patch, and I think it's gonna be worth the wait. It feels very densely packed with content, and I'm really glad. Part of me, I love this dev team. I really do trust them, but part of me was a little bit nervous that we are gonna get, this cycle, and it was. I mean, I trust that it was gonna have new content, new things to do, but I worried that it wasn't going to feel like enough,
Right.
given how long it has been. But based on the trailer, it looks like enough to me. We'll see when we get in it, but yeah, it looks. I don't know. It feels like it is growing up, like turning into a grown-up ARPG with a fully fleshed out end game that might keep people interested a little bit longer. I mean, I love the monolith, but I can only take so much of it.
It can be a little mind numbing at times. The whole cemeteries thing looks interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm chomping at the bit to to jump in and try out this stuff.
Because, I think the cemeteries is like the first completely procedurally generated thing that they've done.
Right. And they said that they're not necessarily adding full procedural generation back into things, but that there will be more of it probably going forward. So um, it will certainly help change things up a bit.
Yeah, replay will help a lot. Because, right
Mhm.
now, we're pretty much running the same static maps that we have from the campaign, or at least pretty close to the same static maps.
Right. There's some variations on the theme, but yeah. Yeah, I'm extremely excited about this. I love Last Epoch. I can't wait to have an excuse to spend a lot more time with it because it's been a little bit. And I hope it's enough to bring a lot of people back. They had such a huge burst of popularity, and then they, weren't necessarily able to maintain the, content drops to keep the population stable. But
It
in a world
seems
with PoE2, I hope that that there's room for people to love what Last Epoch is bringing, because it's very different, but it's also very good.
Yeah, it seems like they may be threading the needle and hitting a time when there isn't a lot going on. Because the Diablo 4 season got pushed back past the start of Last Epoch. Path of Exiles season 3.26 does not appear to be happening anytime soon. Path of Exile 2's next patch I think will land sometime in March, but we don't know for sure when. So like there may be a gap there that they can hopefully attract attention.
Yeah, I really hope so. And I think I know that there is a space here for people who enjoy Diablo 4 but get bored of it, but also don't have the bandwidth to figure out Path of Exile.
Yeah.
and and Last Epoch can slide right in there and grab all of those folks.
I mean, I really think Last Epoch is the game people were wanting when they tried Path of Exile 2, wanting to like have an easier to get into version of Path of Exile.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks seem to become PoE2 converts and are all in on it right now, but I think some of them are gonna spend a lot of time with Last Epoch and they get reminded how good it feels to play. And
Well, like,
especially now that it'll have a lot more to do.
almost all of the usual suspects that were mainlining PoE2 from the streaming community are now in PoE1 Legacy of Phrecia and are mostly commenting about how good it feels to be back in PoE1. So like I don't think like there's a true conversion that happened there. PoE2 was just the new thing.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I think it caught some people who were sliding in the other direction from D4.
Yeah.
That seems to be a little bit more sticky for those folks.
Well, I mean, D4 is really kind of a simplistic game, and if you got super into that game and now you're wanting something with a little bit more meat on the bones, then yeah, Path of Exile 2 or something like that makes a lot of sense. But again, I still feel like Last Epoch is probably better suited for that thing that they're looking for.
Agreed. And just given the relative states of the game, PoE2 is still in such an early state, and Last Epoch is significantly more polished, so that also helps it.
I just feel like the Path of Exile patch when it lands is going to essentially nerf the four things that did work and probably not leave anything in return.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about it, but also I'm not that hung up on it because I have Last Epoch to go back to. Hopefully the patch cycle will not be quite as long from here on out.
Yeah, but I mean, if this is as big of a patch as it looks like it is, it was probably the right call to stop and build a better end game.
I agree. I think it was a risk, but I hope that it pays off. But from here on out, I don't necessarily expect it to have as frequent patches as a game from a bigger studio, but it needs to be consistent, whatever it's going to be, and it needs to be, at least twice a year.
Yeah, like I don't think that they can afford to let it go any longer than 6 months.
Yeah. And I think if they could do that and be consistent, then they can find their place in the ebb and flow of ARPG travelers.
Well, and they really have to hit this one without having any dupe exploits that wreck the economy for the folks who don't play on Circle of Fortune. And that's kind of been the challenge with the last couple of leagues. There at the beginning and then at this last cycle, there were just some really major exploits in the wild. And by the time it was caught, like the damage was done. I think the only one of us that has attempted to play Trade League is Kodra, so... And I don't think his experience has been great.
No, I keep telling myself that, oh, I should at least roll one character over there just to mess around with it, but I enjoy Circle of Fortune so much that it's really hard to make myself do that.
It would be really hard to go back to not having all the loot drops. Because, like, by the time you have a maxed out Circle of Fortune, you're just seeing so much loot.
Yep. And being able to customize what's dropping a little bit with the prophecies. Like, it feels good when you're, oh, I'm really looking for, boots, and I've got 6 prophecies to kill these things, and they're all gonna drop 5 pairs of boots. You just get a shower of the thing that you were looking for to sort through and craft or whatever you're gonna do with them. Like, it feels very satisfying.
Yeah.
It's really hard to let that go. Yes, I know I could get the perfect pair of boots from the auction house, but it doesn't feel as good.
I don't have any other topics. This is probably it. Any final thoughts about anything?
I finally started playing Indiana Jones because it was 20% off, and everybody said it's game of the year. I'm enjoying it. It feels like playing an Indiana Jones movie.
Yay!
I'm running around Giza now.
Yeah, the intro is just perfect. Like,
yeah, no, I loaded into it. I started walking. I was like, wait a minute.
I recognize that guy. Yeah,
Wait
exactly.
Yep.
Am I playing Raiders of the Lost Ark? What's happening? And then, yeah, okay.
Yes,
Seriously,
you are.
like one of my favorite game intros. Just it is so perfect.
Very well
So good.
done.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week with hopefully the remaining folks. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.